All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending. Hi, how are you? Thank you for attending this present council meeting. It's nice to see that we finally got an attendance to be able to have one since we had to cancel the last two. Before we start, I just want to also thank our fire chief, Gene Rogers, for attending this with us. If nobody knows Gene, he's sitting all the way in the back. If you have any questions regarding South Trail, that's the man to reach out to.
Notice she said questions, not complaints.
And then in attendance, we have all four board members. So we have Carol, myself, we have Doug and Ed, and I believe Bob is on his way. And the first item that we're going to talk about now, and then Chelsea is going to present, is going to be an update on the lake bank restoration. And I'll just pass it on to Chelsea.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for coming out. Great attendance numbers are still around, so maybe we work all the time. So Daniel Potter is actually a works director. He would typically be here to present this item as these projects are his to oversee, but in his absence, I will present. So as you all may know, raise your hand if you've been impacted by a pond bank restoration project in the district yet. On the screen here, I don't know if we can turn off some of these lights.
She said they could slide that thing over in front of the door. Oh, that's probably.
Gateway has a vast amount of lakes, ponds. Really, they're stormwater ponds is what they are. They're not for cosmetic. Thank you. They're not for cosmetic. It is to convey stormwater drainage, and all of that water eventually goes to under 75 to what we call Area 9, and then to the 6 Mile Cypress Slough. So all of these ponds are interconnected in some form or fashion. There's a lot of them. Here, the next one. So this board, I started with the district in 2020, and this board started, even boards before, started pond bank restoration. We have permits from South Florida Water Management District, which stipulate the requirements of said ponds. Not every pond is the same. Some have a 4-to-1 slope, some have a 6-to-1 slope. These ponds, these stormwater ponds, convey water. That's essentially what they do. We have different requirements. The corals are required on some ponds, not on every pond. Installing rocks, man-made materials, and plants around the perimeter of ponds, they really help stabilize banks. You'll see most of our, pretty much every pond bank restoration that we're doing has rocks. So it's a big component of how we're proceeding. Now, I won't dive into the Pelican way, because Pelican has historically done their restoration a little bit differently, but all of these things are conversations that this board is having right now. So going to the next slide. Back in 2022, this document is on our website. So what this board did was we went to our engineer, Tetra Tech, our district engineer, and said, go evaluate every pond that we have in the district. Put a priority list together, and from worst to best, and let's start tackling it. And so understanding each dry season is only what, 3-4 months, maybe on a good year. How many linear feet of pond bank restoration could we do during that time frame? So that's why you see them broken out into the different fiscal years. It's categorized. So this board prioritized residential first, and then we did road repairs, commercial, golf course. That's how we prioritize the linear footage. As you can see, all of the ponds that the lines that are highlighted in green are complete. We've got a lot of them underway, like 14, I think. So you'll see some that are in FY 2023 that are still white. Mother Nature caught up to us. She started raining early, so we couldn't finish those. Some of those ponds are currently being done as we speak. So the vertical columns, the red was critical, so it was based on the erosion. Orange was bad. I can't see. Yellow was
Minor.
and then green was good. So this is our guiding document of the priority list. Okay, moving on.
Hey, can someone turn on the speaker?
Speaker.
There's music playing.
It's not me.
Oh,
It's outside.
I'm sorry.
There's music coming from inside.
So these are the ponds that are coming down the road that we've got to work on. Again, this document is on our website, so you can see, we actually have a map that goes with it too, and that may be coming next, I'm not sure. We do have a big map that has the list of the ponds and the colors and things like that, so all of that's on our website that you can take a look at. Moving on, some pictures, right? Pictures are worth 1,000 words. This is Lake 79. We've got some before and after. You can see the erosion on the left, and then on the right, how it was restored to a 4:1 slope. I did Lake 117, again, same thing, before and after. Pictures worth 1,000 words. This was BNZ Construction. So this is the first for me, actually. BNZ, they did it by barge from the water. So totally different means and methods, but accomplished the same end result. This was Extreme Divers on Lake 82. This was in Gateway Greens on the golf course side. If you heard, the golf course was redoing their course last year. This board said, hey, I know we'd hate to tear up a brand new, perfectly, golf course. Let's rush this and let's get the golf course side done. That way we can do it in tandem and not destroy the new turf. This is CMB. So this one was in Pelican Preserve. Notice you don't see rocks. Pelican Preserve, they've done their repairs with coconut mesh. They are contemplating doing a pilot for rocks, and that'll be maybe forthcoming this year. All right, all those planned or in progress. Contractor is currently working on pond 127 and Gateway Greens. In probably 3 weeks, they're going to be moving to Lake 130 in Gateway Greens. We got CMB, literally just had a progress meeting with them today. They're starting down there on the Commerce Lake Drive in between Hannock and Royal Greens, and then they'll move to Lake 99. Emerald ponds, these were actually awarded last year. Mother Nature caught up to us. So hopefully we'll be able to get this contract, hopefully to get these 4 ponds done this year. And then we have 2 ponds that are pending with Pelican Preserve that went to the board at their last meeting. Kind of up in the air and see what happens with this. All right. 4 that are out to bid right now. We did them in pairs. That way it was more manageable for a contractor. Those are actually up for consideration of award at next Thursday's board meeting. I just want to touch, I think we missed it as part of this. The district applied for what we call a hazard mitigation grant program grant. We were successful and have been awarded $1 million for just design, with potentially up to another $9 million for construction dollars. We have to get through the design before we can go to construction. It's a 25% grant match, so we're able to design 21 ponds for basically $250,000 out of our pocket, which is $1 million worth of work. So we've been actively pursuing grants to reduce, the expense to our taxpayers, and keep on rolling these ponds. So as you can see, staff, Daniel's going to be pretty busy here with 14 ponds in the back, but hoping, knock on wood, Mother Nature is kind to us and we can get it done. So with that, I'll pause. Is there any questions about pond bank restoration? Yes, ma'am.
What's the total amount of ponds between Gateway, Pelican, and the rest of the communities?
Ask me that.
I think so.
What is it?
86 in Gateway.
Yeah, like
30.
Yeah.
a hundred and some, and then there's conservation areas which are completely
I'd say
separate,
like
but
114 or something like that.
so almost 100. Yes,
Yeah, I'm from Hidden Links, and I'd like to know why the board decided to change the scope after I went on my way to try to smooth any concerns people have, and then basically change everything so that it riled everybody up, and basically I felt like they stabbed me in the back.
I'm not sure what specifically are you, what was the scope that was changed, that, what specifically are you asking
Well,
us?
specifically, when we met with the contractor, we were told that no trees at all were going to be impacted, and they weren't going to use any right of ways through the community down Hidden Links Drive.
Okay,
And
so
now
that-
that seems to be all
Okay.
changed such that they had to do a survey and people's trees are impacted. And they've had to fill out applications to save those trees. And they were charged $500, even though the application says $10.
Okay, so I will answer your question. So I'm happy to say that what you mentioned is the contractor conversation, because this board has not changed the scope. We stand behind what we said, which is following the permit criteria, which are a 20-foot LME for that particular pond. So it's very hard for us to guide. We try to educate our contractors if they have conversation with residents, to reach out to staff, so staff can better guide them, because they're not the one that speak on behalf of the board or staff. So we start with that. Regarding the LME, we as a board stated a policy. We revised a policy about a year ago, which was, the original policy was to follow and try to work around the trees and try to work around everything else. We realized at that point that we're not following the permit criteria. So here we are spending millions of dollars and missing a step. So the board unanimously decided at that time that we're going to follow what we were required to follow, which is a 20-foot LME. Regarding not using or utilizing right of ways and easements, I can't speak on behalf of the contractor. I don't know why would they say that, because that is the only way we can do the work. Because if there's an easement between your property and another property, that's where I have to go. I cannot go behind her property and his property because there's an easement. So that's why the easements are there. So I really can't speak on behalf of what the contractor had conversation with you. And the person that either had or will receive pond restorations to reach out to staff. And that's who's going to guide you and give you the answer that you want.
Well, I'm not sure we got the correct word from even the staff, but needless to say, my main point is that when those things happen, you're destroying the trust. I think that one of the primary purposes of this type of meeting is to get everybody on board to support you folks, essentially, in some of the projects that you're basically doing, so that we know what's coming down the pike. And when you basically undermine us like that, I think that you basically are destroying our trust. So, I mean, why should I go put my neck out to my community if you're going to change the rules later and everybody's just going to get all riled up and upset after I've told them that not to worry?
Chelsea, I think I can answer part of this. On 127 and 130 that Alan's alluding to, those were designed over 3 years ago. Those were designed over 3 years ago. And at that time, Tetra Tech, because I was with them when we went around the lake, and they were identifying trees that could save, trees that you could work with, and we hadn't even talked about the clear cutting of the LME. So the problem is that we got way ahead of the construction because of weather and all other kinds of issues. But the thing is that the design and all that the people were told over there on both 27 and 30, 127 and 130, changed in a period of time, and we didn't get back to the people and say, hey, new ball game. That's the problem.
Yeah, they basically sent them saying they had 2 weeks over the holiday to cut them.
Caught them cold.
Yes, ma'am.
How are you going to avoid that? We bring up the next question. How are you going to avoid that next time?
We're going to continue to follow what the board has unanimously voted on, which is following the permanent criteria, which is cutting the trees to the LME, which is 20. I think there's one lake in mind that I have that is 10, but the majority of the lakes are 20.
It's
So
not addressing the concern, though, ma'am.
I think the answer is we instruct our contractor to really not have a conversation with residents. It's really not their responsibility. I know if they're out there walking around, it's easy to go and talk to them, but you need to hear directly from the board, because we're the board and staff. We're the ones that are approving, facilitating, and enforcing the designs and construction. And I'm sure the contractor was, just relaying what he thought was happening, and he was probably just trying to do a good job. But we need to restrict and make sure that we're educating our contractors to direct any questions in regards to design and execution to staff or to the board.
To expand a little bit. Yes, the timing wasn't the best with the letters because contractor said, hey, we're ready to move. And some notice was better than no notice at that point. Truthfully, I made that call with sent letters. To answer your question directly, staff are working through a better process. Obviously, we're learning as we go. This is the, maybe 10th pond that we've done. The policy has changed. And so we have to change with that, and our processes have to change. So, sending out letters to you all and asking for you to relay that and disseminate that to your residents. That is the key. We just sent one out, Randy, 20 minutes ago, to Hammond Cove and to Royal Greens to let them know, hey, the contractor's mobilized. You're going to see them. They're out there. They're moving. They're shaking.
Will things change or anything?
Yes.
Communication to the residents is paramount.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think this is an example of most of the time when we approve a design, that design stays intact. And we are projecting out. We have to do these designs, sometimes years before they actually get constructed. This is one example of where there was a policy residents from the it doesn't happen very often, to be quite honest. So this is another example of make sure if a policy gets changed, that we adequately communicate. And the thing with the implementation, sometimes those, I think the challenge is you don't want too much of a runway. You want to have kind of a just-in-time delivery, but we know with these with Mother Nature and a lot of different things, it can influence the construction time. We've had some delay 3 months, 6 months, some even a year, just based on flood, the water levels and things of that nature. So constant communication is key, and I think that as leaders in your community, as residents, you'd like to know more rather than less, and that's one of the reasons why we have this meeting. And it's so important that you, as leaders in your community, can tell us the things that you're hearing from your residents, the things that you need in order to better, effectively communicate our position and echo our sentiments. And yours is a really great example of, if we could go back, there's probably some things we could have done differently on that, for sure.
Range, both sides signing up for patrons.
Yeah, so if you want to sign up to any district notifications on our website, if you go to gatewaydistrict.org, there's a tab that is labeled I want to, and there's a subcategory that's labeled district notification. Direction to any notification from any community, whether you're a resident or an HOA or a CAM. And that's just kind of to make sure that everyone, I think an issue that ran into in the past was that we would send these out to the HOA presidents and the CAMs, and that's where it stopped. So in order to, address that, encourage residents along with the communities to sign up for these notifications, or newsletters.
And just one quick thing. One of the reasons why we use that policy is our ability to maintain. And there are things that we have to do. So if we're spending all this money to restore our lake banks, we need to also be able to maintain them. And there's some communities I know that's had issues with maintenance and timely maintenance and that type of stuff in the past. So in order to better position ourselves for the maintenance to occur, we have to make sure that we're setting a standard. And that's where adhering to the 20-foot LME is something that we adopted and are reinforced and are enforcing.
I had a gentleman over here, then go ahead.
It sounds like there was an action item needed to review all the designs that have been approved prior to the policy change that haven't been done yet. So you don't have the same issue moving forward with other ones.
Well, it really where it becomes an issue is that at the time of construction. So design should stay the same. Design doesn't stay this. Right.
The same boat.
Yeah, your point is, at the time of, when we were looking at planning for construction, there is a communication plan and a lead time that gives residents adequate time to receive a letter, to make any, one, to be aware of what's happening, two, to make any changes that may occur on their property as they're impacted. So I think you're right. The action item is really for us to go back, look at our communication plan and make sure when we are doing construction, regardless of whether, when the design was complete, when we're getting to construction, there is a timeline where we need to make sure that information is getting out to the residents in a timely manner.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to say also that it's a consistency item. You basically favored some of the earlier ponds that then they didn't have this particular issue. And now the later ones seem like they're gonna have this issue. And so when people are talking, it's like, why are they taking down my tree? Somebody else says, well, they didn't take down my tree, and it's a lot closer to that. When they did our pond, what the heck's going on? So it's a consistency issue, and it looks like to folks that you're unfair and you're discriminating against them, and you don't care about them. You just cared about your buddy that was in the other pond way over when you did that earlier. So to me, that's part of the issue. You have to be consistent. You have to be fair to everybody. And if you're going to do it for one, you do it for all.
Well, and I do think to that, if you don't mind, we have been reviewing requests as they've come in. So
Staff is like, to that point, it's very, given that there's regarding the ponds and the banks, so not every single tree is required to be moved, even if they're on LME. So if you have a cypress tree, even if it's 3 feet away from the water line, that tree will stay because that tree is a required tree by new development order. So it's not, so you may have one neighbor next to another that his palm tree may have to go, but a cypress or a maple tree or an oak tree that is required to be there will not go. So literally every single property and every single pond, they will vary because there are usually 1, 2, or sometimes 3 types of requirement that are required to either have the tree there or not. So it's not necessarily a blank statement. Going back to the ponds that we didn't do, I would say that we didn't do a good job, or we didn't focus on enforcing the LME requirement. We have received notifications for either vendor, staff, and other residents of trees or items or structures that are on the LME. I know we received a few from Hampton Park, and those residents, even after the work was done, were notified that they needed to address those things. So as they come to staff is taking this step to let them know and tell them that this needs to be removed because hindering maintenance of the plants. And I would love to save every single tree, but when we're talking about a tree that it can, in the very near future, cost us more money, that's what we have to think. We have to follow what the guidelines are, what the permits are, and we have to be conscious of the not understanding and the trees are located. Some possible because they're huge, 20-30 years, totally get that. So
It's back to the principle of the said community.
and then pond requirements, they vary by pond, so it's hard as
Saying throughout your process.
We're-
Why you totally different, you might see some difference in vision, and this is why.
and even it's yeah.
And how we don't, people don't, they do, they make it up. That's then you don't make it.
We will be allowed into that goes to staff and communication, and that is one item that I really had in the bullet point. So that one, it was just how communication has improved, but in that year, they will still have an opportunity, because I will tell you, the civil rights that went out, it was 0 to none. And it's a lot, there's a lot of, I will have to add for a question.
Is probably one of the last to be restored, whatever. How soon should, like me personally, how should I contact you about the trees that I have? Because they're protected and at any rate.
So for you, I'll just go, first thing, I'm gonna try to look at your development order and see if that particular tree on your property is required to be there, but then worry about it, you have to work around, have to make it happen, so I would take a step, and probably go one-on-one with you, and I think we're talking tree you have back there, right?
City, city base.
Yeah, so I'm somewhat familiar with your property, so it wouldn't, it wouldn't qualify. And another thing also to know is the ponds are living items. So, and one thing that Tetra has done, I think multiple times, is revisit the priority list. Because when we went and look back, 5 or 6 years ago, we had a vast, it's somewhat, it didn't have as much as erosion studies. So, staff has revisited that list. I think twice we have reprioritized some of the ponds. So I think go back to what you said, communication is key from us and communication is key also from you guys. So if there's a pond that you live that has not been restored, that you feel like suddenly had a huge change, contact us. If it's restored, which we do receive this quite often. Not because your pond's restored, we're going to forget about you. You're going to have some washouts. You may have an irrigation pipe that's going to break and cause an issue. Reach out to us. I mean, I know Stony Brook has reached out to us multiple times regarding the rocks. There's somehow some of the rocks are kind of just washing away. So not because your pond was repaired, it doesn't mean that's what you're going to stick with it. Contact us, let us know there's an issue, there's a change. The more eyes that we have out there, the better. And then if you're in a pond that, like you said, yours is like to the last, or you notice a change that needs to be revisited by staff and engineer, let us know so we can go back out in the field and pull maybe that forward.
Well, and back to the point about communication. So we have 35 staff for all of Gateway. That's utility staff included. So really, I have 2 environmental specialists to handle, what would you say, almost 100 ponds and 9, I didn't count conservation areas. So to emphasize what Bobby's saying, if you see something, say something. Email us, contact us. If you have a question about the property, we'll be more than happy to sit down, you look up until we get the actual design survey, it's hard to tell, but if you want to be proactive and move Grandma Lucy's tree because it's there, absolutely reach out, please. We're always working on better communication.
Yes, 2 things on communication. One is you're throwing around the acronym that half the people don't know, LMA. What does it mean? Second thing is you said, someone said the instructions for signing up. If we could get a written copy of that so I could pass it out to my residents for them to sign up would be great.
Perfect. So we'll take that and you can email them back to you. That would be great. And LME lake maintenance easement. So it's an area that is required you to maintain the lake. Thank you. And then we'll have one more question, then we'll go on next slide. Yes.
I'm a homeowner, like, supposedly going to be done sometime, supposed to be doing the bid. We had been told that the bid was already signed, and now I'm finding out that the bid hasn't been signed. Now, you just made 3 types of trees that are protected. So are those types of trees 100% not coming down?
No, they're not protected, so I want to make sure it's clear. Trees that are required by the development order. So when I'll just explain it. When a pond is built, each pond has a different requirement. Either the volume of water, the type of vegetation that's around, the type of littorals, which is the vegetation that's in the water. So I'll give you an example. Silver Lakes Pond 88, it has no requirements for littorals whatsoever. So nothing has to be there. And I believe doesn't have any requirements for lake trees, which are the trees that the most commonly used, the maple cypress and so forth. So you really have to look at the requirements set by the development when your particular pond or unit was built. And some will note just a total amount of trees and some will note specific locations. So they really vary. Lee County, you can, it's in the counties, but I'm pretty sure if you reach out to staff, but I think we'll be able to help you in.
The county is where it's at, but I can tell you that when the engineers did the design, they went back and did site surveys to see if there were any of those trees out there, noted it, and noted save or not. So your, specific, the design has been complete, know which trees are staying, which are going, and if you receive a letter, your trees are on that list unless you try to proceed through the easement user agreement.
Great, appreciate that, that's very good. Using the funds or use to offset some of those?
We actually had a conversation about that at the next board meeting, so thank you for giving that a big.
All right, so we're all set with the ponds, providing with their license.
Take note of Daniel Potter's contact information, he's a public works director, take a picture of that. Remember, like I said, he is actively monitoring these projects alongside weekly.
And while you're, next one, so what's going on is these lakes and ponds serve a purpose. It's flowway. We also monitor, maintain regularly the weirs, which are another important aspect of the water management system. And as I'm hoping a lot of you noticed, this past year when we had rain events, prior to rain events, we're able to change to release water through our flow system and to mitigate flooding opportunities and that type of stuff. So, another critical piece of pond maintenance.
Okay, I just want to preface this presentation with, this is an overview of the assessment methodology where the board has date to stone. We have not hearings. This is just like based on discussions and voting from the board as of today. This is where this stands.
Do you just make sure people understand what impact assessment methodology has? Okay.
So just to give a little background, we are ready, and it gets brought up during every meeting, and can bullet point there, has fair, equitable, and defensible. So we can't just come up with random numbers saying like, we think these should get us to pay less. We can't the rationale behind the assessment. And then also the district engineer is required by statute to provide a report to help the economist with calculations. The last time that we did an assessment methodology was in 2000. It was actually finalized at the very first board meeting that I attended when I started here. So we've been using this same methodology for the last 5 budget seasons. Each year when we look at it, we realize that it needs some help. Now that we had the Rule 6 get repealed, that just pushed us into taking another
2020.
Oh, it's supposed to be 2020. Yeah, it's 2020. No, it was 2020 when I started. Yeah, so sorry, I had an error. But the current methodology needs to be reviewed. It needs to be reviewed. I have, thank you. Because with Rule 6, we need to take another look at things. It needed to be reviewed, and it's just by the fact that we need to take another look at it. So it's been 5 budget seasons that we've used this methodology. So here's a little timeline of kind of how we got here. So September 19th is when we had the public hearing and repealed Chapter 6. The first discussion on the assessment methodology on the waterway management portion was brought to the board on November 7th. And then 2 weeks later, we looked at roadways. And then the board meeting after that, we did Parks and Rec. At our last board meeting on January 16th, that was our final workshop before the first draft will be presented to the board. And that first draft will be at our board meeting next week, Thursday. And then we will posting our public hearing notice. Reviewing the final methodology. Hearing as of right now is planned to happen at the meeting on March 20th. So in about a month and a half. Here, I just each of there. So this is just a map that we shared. If you, I can't read what the legend is. The orange area is on the community. And the blue is that those are the roads that are owned by Lee County. And or say orange is we have Stony Brook and the large area that's Pelican Preserve, and we have a few arterial roads over in this area, including like Soccer Drive and some of those smaller roads. But you can see like Tree Line, Gate, those are all owned by Lee County. All right. We did have the district engineer verify. They also verified the use of the Institute of Traffic Engineers. It's the ITE. We talk about a trip generation, so I'm making sure to tell you what ITE stands for. That's what Russ will refer to. Mr. Tinkle refers to the trip generation. We're using the most current edition, which is the 11th edition, and that's how we got the roadway benefit determination. So basically, there's 3 areas for the roadway budget. There's the gateway section, which we call our general fund, or the 001 fund for those of you who come to the board meetings, the Pelican Preserve section, which is the 002 fund, and then the Stony Brook, which is the 004. So at the recommendation of the consultant, the board said that they should set up a baseline. So everybody will pay that same amount. And because Stony Brook's is the smallest, they were set at the baseline. So whatever dollars those were, that was the baseline. Anything above that for Gateway and Pelican would be assessed individually to them. We did make a change with the repeal of the rule. Pelican Preserve, since they're a 55 and older restricted community, they are getting a reduced trip generation rate. It's 4.31 instead of everyone else getting 9.43. So since they're 55 and older, they're actually getting less.
Yeah, they're getting almost half.
Yes, it's half.
9.43, that's the gateway portion, did I understand that correctly?
That is the gateway portion. That's everyone but Pelican.
So gateway doesn't pay the 9.43.
Yes, it does. It's everyone but Pelican. Pelican is 4.31. Everyone else is 9.43 for a single family.
It's not totally the methodology, but when we see questions, for example, I'm in Phoenix, and I know 40% of my houses are vacant during the summer, and a lot of the condos are vacant because there's mostly Canadians there. So I know at least 40% of the Canadians are vacant. Of those people working, there's probably 5 people in the community working, the rest are all retired. Of those 5, at least 2 of those 5 are over the age of 55.
Okay.
One of them's a pilot, and it's less they're less than probably 4 months a year. So I guess I'm kind of wondering if the methodology is fair to communities like mine, I guess.
So what we have to go by is that trip generation handbook, which is, that's the standard, and it's based on the type of property. So all residential single families get a 9.43. Multifamilies have a different trip generation. The 55, it's not based on the individual property. It's just in general. Right.
It's the same stuff.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's not. It's not.
And the reason why is because Pelican Preserve is established solely as a 55 and plus community. So when you go to this 11th edition and we open that page, there is a reduction we apply for that community only. Now, let's say Pinecrest was in the same, which is in the Gateway side, and it was a 55 restricted community.
They would get the same rate.
Also became 4.1. So while we understand and was that some communities logistically, they're more than 55, if you wanted to or to utilize the roads, it does not give us the ability to defend and to enforce a reduction for the trip generation on those merits, on those values. So unless you did it at 55 community like Pelican Preserve,
Community that's probably under 55.
we don't have that ability.
70.
We do not have the ability to make that decision. We have.
For 55 plus communities, is that illegal or is that your decision?
No, it is a legal decision. It's one of those, I think there's a different, I think, So family, I think, buildings, right? There was a different one, commercials. So that's, exactly, we don't have the ability to.
We're following this book, this trip generation handbook. We're using the classifications from that book and applying it to the properties.
Well, then,
That's what the law
It's the
says.
generally
Yes.
accepted principle for doing it.
Correct.
What Alan's talking about is that the ITE does not address where you have conditions of people that may be under 55, may be only renting their unit, or they may only be living there seasonal. All of that is not considered in ITE, none whatsoever. Is assuming availability to everybody equally. If you got into what he's talking about, which I don't say is wrong, is just almost impossible to calculate it.
We have to follow home
Because you
sales.
might have it and sell it to,
Right.
or you might own it and you're a full-time resident, which means you would get the full meal deal as far as ITE. But somebody else may come in and buy it and they're only here 2 months of the year. It just takes those and wipes them off. They don't count.
so let's. Questions and answers, let Chelsea, let Laura present.
You can present it.
Wait, she made some of the questions, but hold on to your questions into the end. Go ahead, Laura.
Okay, next,
Steve had a question.
we'll wait till the end. I have a place for questions. So for the water management portion, the benefit calculations were verified by our district engineer. And so that helped determine the water management benefit determine. Some lines were taken out of the analysis because they're from system. So part of this is it's impervious land. So how much does it soak in? How much does it run off? We took all the lakes and wetlands out of that calculation when we did this. Golf course land is calculated as vacant land, but the clubhouse is considered pervious or impervious, depending on if it's grass or parking lot or the lakes within Gateway and Pelican, both at the both golf clubs were taken out of the total golf course acreages. And right now, the way that our system is set up, the way that everything is assessed, the general fund, the 001 pays for everything in the district, and the properties over in Pelican, the Five and Treeline Commercial and Pelican all pay for the water management in that area of Gateway. So the board directed the consultant to separate the budget lines for those areas and then determine the benefits to Gateway and Pelican Preserve. Parks and Rec, every great subject. Parks and Rec is all being currently handled through the general fund. We presented multiple different ways to measure the alternatives. In the end, the board voted that all residential properties in Gateway would be assigned a 1, except for Arborwood and Pelican Preserve, since they don't have direct connection to Gateway. Those will get a 0.15 benefit measurement along with the commercial properties. So if you live in non-Pelican part of Gateway and you're a resident, if you're a residential, you get a 1. Everybody else gets a 0.15. We decided also that it was best to keep the Parks and Rec wages in their own silo. They're going to be combined when we do everything, but down the road, should we decide to allocate their separate Parks and Rec differently, it's just easier for us to know that this much for salary is dedicated just to Parks and Rec, because those people only work in Parks and Rec. Administration. So we gave the board 5 options for allocating the expenses of the salaries and related expenses for the admin staff. First is status quo. Just keep it the way it is now. Don't change anything. Per FTE, based on the salary, deduct the enterprise fund or split it 1/3, 2/3. So the board selected the deduct enterprise fund allocation. So bottom line, really rough math, what that means is basically if we look at all of the salaries, all of the enterprise fund employees with all of their salaries, their benefits, everything is about 50% of the cost of all employee salaries. So that gets all paid for through your water bill. And the 400, that's all dedicated to your water bill. The remaining 50% of the salary is getting split. Pelican is paying 1/3, the rest of Gateway is paying 2/3 of a half. And That's the way as of today that, we did move, Chelsea went to the enterprise fund, 40% of mine, 10% is, I find the account, the person inside is being paid for, our full series, because we dedicate that much time to that side of the business, so we don't get paid for our time directly. So that's the only exception to the silos that we have separated. Sure. But the bottom line, easy is that overall, out of the entire salary, roughly 50% is the enterprise fund, the utility, our whole utilities team, Austin, Bill, the staff, the billing people who work on the meters, all of them. Plus Chelsea's time, my time, the enterprise fund, or the fuel for the utility, you're waiting for that. Up to 50%. A third would be allocated to Pelican, so a third back, and then the 2/3 is to Gateway. So 2/3 of it half by the water bill. I know it's clear as mud. I covered all this. We did have in silos, so it's there. We have administrative. It would be 59% of the utilities. Pelican and 27 to the rest of Gateway, and then with this staff split, it'll be 50% to the utilities fund, 70% to Pelican, and 33%. So its portion being 50%. And this is due mostly to the fact that our public works team, when I started here, was, and now we have quite a few people staff. It's caused that shift of the cost from that cost is shifted over to the admin side. Just a little bit earlier, word pack, which is supposed to be published by the end of this week. Still, be published word packet. If you can access that, hearing will be published in paper on February 13th. Will be presented to the board at the February meeting, March 20th. What happens is the FY20, because it needs to be the FY26, we call it the high water mark, which is what the yeah. Your taxes will not, which is currently in August 24th. Questions? I'm sure. Just have a recap. Yeah, the next meeting, we have the first how that we are pushing towards that. It could be pushed off any time if we decide as a board some of the alternatives or not right now. But yes, that is generally the timeline, and we'll see how the alternative put a caveat in my presentation with of today, where
Yes, yes.
Down in the black.
Steve?
Is it all to redesignate the community to 55?
I don't have an answer for you. I.
Sorry, what did it say, Steve?
How do you, is it possible to get it over?
To redesignate a community to 55 is cost.
It might be a little problematic because you'd probably be taking 50% of Gateway Greens and telling them you can't live here anymore.
Community within the community.
A community within a community. Suppose one, you got to look at your development order, and then two, you got to look at your covenants.
It may be possible, I don't know if we can.
yes.
So what about roadways that are public roadways, used to have, like, that aren't owned by anybody? And you all know what I'm talking about.
This is code for the same thing in water management. There's nothing that we can do about that. Our roads are collectors.
2 cars a day, cut from Daniels to the traffic circles with white light. And somehow nobody wants to claim ownership of that road.
But keep in mind, there's no operating cost.
There is on the.
There isn't. The original people Warrington.
When you took over the HOA, while I'm gonna agree with you 100% on what the path that you wanna take, and I'll be the first one to be there and say that's exactly what I think should happen. That road belongs to the HOA.
It belonged to Worthington. Who owned it, who was in charge of that whole industrial section. They went bankrupt. So they used to charge all of us for the maintenance of that road. Once they went bankrupt, nobody paid in anymore. So the county took possession of it all the way up to Low Child.
Correct.
And from Daniels up to the court where they turn for the churches. So they own both ends.
That's it.
Nobody owns the middle. We've contacted the former owners that went bankrupt. They refused to answer. So that tells me eminent domain can come into play. Nobody wants to go near that. County doesn't want to talk to me anymore. And you guys just did a whole project on identifying all of these parcels in Gateway that didn't belong to anybody. You had them all surveyed, and so that you can make them all yours. But still, but the 3/6 of the road that happens to run right by Daniels Preserve, and it's also the GPS entrance to Gateway.
I don't think I could be totally wrong, and I usually don't like to even have a voice on when I don't know something, but I don't think we have, as a board, have the ability to take over that road with like Warrington signing off on it, because I think that's what we finished. That was the issue about the zoning.
We've done this before.
So I would be, so I would support that decision.
West Burlington refused to sign off. Then eminent domain can be used. They don't want anything to do with it. Tony actually found one of the guys. They told him to buzz off. When we hired our lawyers from Daniels to contact them, they didn't answer.
So that's what last I heard, that there were 3 of these in Gateway. One down in the West Links Drive area, one Fort, we call it Fairway Point Office Park, and then the other one is the one you're talking about down in Commerce Lakes Drive East. As I recall it, because I got this up about 10 years ago. How do we get this mess taken care of? First of all, this board 20 years ago was asleep at the switch. We should have never allowed those 3, what they call POAs, public operating associations, or public, basically, we let them die. And what did we end up doing? We inherited that mess. We got to get them to turn it over to us. We got to get one of those prior board members that was on that original board to sign off. None of them will touch it with a 10-foot.
have to sign off on listings from the perspective, it's because you guys own that now.
Click on it.
We've owned that for a while. We've owned that for a while. The two that we have that we don't have a solution for are Fairway Lake Science Park and the one in front of you. We don't have a solution.
17, we heard everybody go crazy.
Because the ends were paying, that was delivered for all those. The assessment now, we 1 year, which is what.
And
That's what I wrote.
no, I don't think it's always,
Always these people.
but have you reached out to the
6 years.
have you reached out to the town, going into the meeting and speaking over there beside the email?
The commissioners. I emailed the commissioner and I got my gibberish. So yeah, maybe one of these days.
And I'll make available and I will go with you and I'll put support you on that. Any other questions regarding roadways? Oh, I'm sorry, apologies.
It makes real sense for me to run that step, nobody traveled. And nobody will even talk about it. And the claim that we need a signature, people that maybe get it. Without.
We did,
Can't do anything.
but we did talk about that because the person, because there are someone that's a lot. Part of that board, and we have to follow the procedure. Another avenue, like as I said, I was fully supported. The gentleman like that is.
What data usage did you use with a 0.15 benefit factor for Pelican and Arbor with Parks and Rec? When they don't have access to the facilities.
It's not based on access, it's based on benefit to the people. So you can, just like, I guess same with me, I live in Lee County, I pay for parks that are nowhere even remotely close to where I live, but I still pay for them, which is why you get a 1.5 versus a 1.
You're not a CDD, you are.
I think what he's saying is he cannot use it as, so I think it's a twofold question. As of now, he cannot use it unless he pays the fee. Because they were operating under a different methodology. So
Correct.
if we go to the different assessment methodology, then you're gonna get 1.5. Right now, you don't pay for it and you don't use it. So right now, you 100% don't pay for it and you don't use it. But there is that benefit regardless if you choose to use it or utilize the facility. What they has done is, in addition with economists, was coming with the middle a percentage of what we think was reasonable and fair. The decision has not been made final. It was made final in one of those meetings. I think the first draft was February 6th. We could change at that meeting, but it was a reduction that it was unanimously voted by the board, Pelicans and Gateway board. We're using it united on this. It was a reduction that we thought it was fair. It's not set in stone. It could change in the following meetings, but that's what we did. Right now, you don't pay for it, that's why you use it. You have the ability to use it. If you want to use the pool, there's a special fee, you can go there and pay for it because you don't pay an assessment. The Gateway residents do. So it's a question of the now and what would happen after, if we choose to go with this methodology or not.
Dave, the figure itself was a compromise on the board.
I understand. And so I assume all the facilities are ADA compliant up to include all aspects of physical limitations for access by senior citizens?
We follow all the requirements set by any government. Well, if there's,
Yes and no.
yes, if there's a requirement by government agency, we follow those requirements.
Okay, so they have the necessary lifts and ramp.
If it is a requirement, if it's something that's required, then my expectation, yes.
Because, well, last thing, the conflict regarding the direct connection to 0.15, it doesn't make sense when I read the law, so.
Any other questions? All right. Oh, move on to Austin.
Base plan. Austin Manoli, Assistant Utilities Manager, and I'm here to give an update on where we're at regarding meter replacement project.
Real quick, Bill, raise your hand.
Oh,
Bill Shaw is our utilities manager in the back. A little under the weather, so we shunned him to the back of the room.
Just let me know when you need me to advance.
So this whole project's being done because our existing meter system is approaching its useful lifespan. And it's being conducted in 2 stages. First stage is going to be replacement, where we're going to go through and replace all of our existing meter boxes. You can see that top picture is kind of, these are examples of what the existing meter boxes look like. Typically they're, cast iron lids, and there's real thin wall PVC. A lot of them are in pretty bad shape due to landscaping. Trees is a really good example. Really mangle those. And we're replacing them with, you can see on the right, these really heavy duty traffic rated boxes with polymer lids. They're more compatible with a lot of like the radio communication technologies used these days. And they're traffic rated, so if a lawnmower hits it, it won't destroy it. And they're less susceptible, I should say, to deformation due to plants growing. And then there's the second phase is going to be the meter replacement phase. We're going to go through and replace all the existing meters and all the AMI infrastructure with a new system that will be selected after what we do in a pilot phase study. That'll probably be starting sometime in mid-April, I believe. Next slide. And that's just a picture of what the new boxes we've selected look like.
Why are there 2 colors, Austin?
One's for reclaimed water meters.
What's color?
Purple.
Okay. It was Pantone purple. It's very specific.
That basically just followed from, there's a rule in the Florida Administrative Code that requires meters installed exclusively meters that are connected to a reclaimed water system to be colored purple, because that's just the color that's set in the rule. And to date, I get you go back.
I'm sure Sunnybrook's ARC will want approval on that.
They don't get a say, sorry.
For most of the residential installations, because there's, a potable water meter and a reclaimed water meter, one box is just going to be the wider black one in the bottom picture.
This one.
That can fit 2 meters in it. And we installed whole, disabled those as part of the project. And also the ones on the picture. Those are predominantly installed in Devonshire Lakes, but those are just for like single, meter assemblies. Next slide. So our project to date, as of September 2024, the pilot box replacement has been completed. And that basically just involved, replacing 195 boxes in total in various communities throughout Gateway. We kind of tried to select a wider geographic area and also really focus on dealing with, installing boxes in older areas, because those are going to, tend to have those issues with, damage due to landscaping. And we've also ordered the materials. And to date, all the brass that we need, these boxes, it's not just a box, it's all the mounting hardware for the meter itself. That stuff has all been delivered, and we've ordered the boxes. That's out of date, because when I made this presentation, I was hoping that they might start getting here by now, but sometime in February is when we're going to expect them to start being delivered.
Let me touch real quick. So the point of the pilot phase is for us to select 3 different meter companies, metering manufacturers to come in, and we want to test it. We want to put it on the ground. We want to see if it works. We've got an airport just south of us. We've got an FPL easement that cuts a transition line, cuts right through our community. We've got, how many of you got a clicker for your community in your car? I know I've got 3 in my car right now. I mean, all of these things impact a metering system, depending on the type of metering
And rainy season too. I mean, we have a very unique climate here where there's a lot of times these meter boxes are underwater.
Yeah, you dig, what, 2 shovels length and you're hitting water. So we want to bring these three companies in, we haven't selected them yet. We would bring them in, we want to give them, you know, same amount in similar locations and say, leave them in the ground for what, 6 to 9 months, Austin?
We sell like a 9 or 10 month timetables.
We want to hit all of our seasons in Florida, you know, all three. Love, rain, and hurricane. No, so that's the point of this pilot project. Currently, how do we currently read meters? We have, well, go ahead.
That's a great question.
Go ahead.
It depends.
When they work,
Yeah. How should it work and how does it work are two different questions.
So where was
Answer.
She wants to know how we read the meters.
Meters should communicate with, we have a whole bunch of like radio infrastructure throughout the community. And ideally, the meter takes its reading and then relays it to this radio communication infrastructure. And it all goes back to an endpoint back in our offices, and then those get uploaded to our meter providers' cloud software. In practice, as has been alluded to, that doesn't work for about a quarter read by hand.
So we've got a quarter of our entire system we have to manually read every 2 months.
I think we're closer to a third.
A third, we're close, so that is a big deal. So, and that's part of the reason why we're, I don't think we'll here, but that's why we're looking to move to a new metering system, not only into useful life, but what we have out there is not working.
Has technology increased in the last 10 years?
You tell me. Yes, absolutely. All right, go ahead, Austin.
So we've established an agreement with the Department of Environmental Protection, low interest SRF loan to fund all this work we're going to be doing, which is helpful because it's going to cost like $11 million. And we've put the 2 main components out to bid. I guess I probably should have said they've both been out for rebid because issues the first time around. Next slide. And that's just some examples of what we found out the old installs during the pilot project. Those aren't even necessarily the worst ones. I didn't have some pictures that were just like completely encased in oak tree roots. We should grab pictures of those and sort of.
I like when they bring tree roots back with meters and growing into them, they'll have a chunk that they cut out in the back of the truck with a meter in it, so.
did everybody hear Austin's price tag on the cost of this? Everybody heard the 12 million? Okay. Just to give you an idea, of comparison, when we put in 9 years ago, 10 years ago, 2.3 million. You get what you pay for.
Well, the key to this too is we're doing box replacement. They did not do box replacement 9-10 years ago. So this circular box does not work with the new technology, especially when you're trying to put 2 meters in a circular box. Square peg, round hole, perfectly set.
Well, as a resident, I want to make sure that the district is using the best equipment that's going to get the most accurate reading. Because I want to pay for exactly what I'm using.
Read low, not high.
Yeah.
If they're lockable.
Authorized people who have access to them.
So our rules say that we are, the district is the only one to be accessing our boxes.
But I don't know if we've even had, I don't remember any issues of any.
We've had 1 or 2 since I've been here.
Illegal tapping, that's it.
Yeah.
So tapping is one, but I mean like vandalism or anything like that. I don't recall.
We have had 1 or 2 where the resident has gone into the box and damaged and broken a component of the assembly. So it's not unheard of, but generally call us. Go ahead, Nolan.
But it didn't warrant enough for us to invest in a lockable system.
Yeah.
You got some liabilities with locking.
Yeah.
You don't want to go down that road.
So as far as what we're hoping to accomplish in the future, we're hoping to get contracts for both of those awarded. They should be coming up
for the March 6th, 2025 board meeting. And then completing the actual work itself. So the meter and AMI replacement, the pilot will start in the middle of April 2025. Full deployment. I have a narrow February 2026 through March 2027. Live contract.
And be
Bosch, place that we're hoping to start that in March this year, and that should run for 18 months.
So are we doing boxes and then meters, or boxes and meters, or?
Boxes should come first, all the whole point stuff, the box has already been completed. So once we award the 3 vendors for the pilot, they're just going to be coming around to their assigned install locations and installing their equipment. Now, as far as what we're hoping to get, so the top 2 bullet points are our current meter system. So we are mechanical meters, specifically multi-jet meters for all the 3/4 meters and anything larger than 1 inch. Going to be they are either the propeller, what's called turbine meters. And the actual network itself is built off of, it's an unlicensed fixed radio network. The 900 megahertz unlicensed frequency on the FCC system for radio communications. So there's some issues with that. License who has technology that doesn't work in FCC license, but also on that band, so you're competing with that, and also have those so they don't communicate as reliably. Basically, what we're hoping to get is a system with ultrasonic meters. I've got some slides later to kind of show. Okay, cellular AMI. So that's going to be a pretty significant. For us, once our current system is configured, we have this fixed radio network. We're responsible for that. We have staff. Anytime a network issue pops up, they have to go out, diagnose the issue, and have parts of it. With a cellular system, that communication, instead of being done through fixed network, it's done directly with all the cellular towers in the area. So we have to maintain, instead our vendor, they're going to be the one responsible for ensuring that we're, receiving the level of service we're contractually entitled to. And then we're also making improvements on a customer service standpoint. You'll have, hopefully at least, have access to a portal which can give you access, give you information on what your water usage patterns are. We're hoping to have increased leak detection capabilities. So to hopefully better serve all of you. Next slide. And that's just a slide showing
Oops, I don't know what it did there, sorry.
So the top 2 are what our current meters kind of look like. Not exact models, but it gives you a general idea of what the meters look like on the inside. Basically, it's relying on measuring movement of movable parts to determine how much water is flowing through the meter. That's got some downsides to it. Moving parts, tolerances loosen up over time. You'll see the degradation and accuracy. On the bottom, that kind of explains what the ultrasonic meter, how that operating principle is. It kind of works on the Doppler effect, uses that to measure the velocity of the water flowing through the meter, calculate flow rates and volume used. But there's no moving parts, so ideally it should be much more reliable. The accuracy won't suffer over time. And also you can measure much smaller usages of water. So you've got a slow leak in a toilet, we can detect that and inform you about it. Or you can look on your, login, like a customer portal, and see that's kind of weird. That's small water usage. And that might, help you. Next slide.
Just about the actual, so, that many of us don't have, systems in our homes to purify the water. There's a residue. How are these kept? Like, what's the shelf life of these units when they've got untreated water going through them all the time?
It depends on each manufacturer and their warranty.
Yeah.
So each manufacturer is different. Most meters, depending on if you're putting potable water through it or reclaimed water, they have different warranty periods. Most are what, 15 to 20, Ed?
Well, it's a solids issue. That's what meters are worried about. And we really don't have that because our water is obviously treated and our irrigation water is treated. And almost all the solids are for all practical purposes gone. They're not into our system.
So we should be
It really
looking at a
doesn't bother
15,
us.
20-year life cycle.
Short use the water.
Yeah, no, that's not the case.
I kind of brushed over some of this information previously, but just to reiterate, the cellular AMI system is supplied on network as a service, so they're responsible for providing and maintaining that network for us. And then the ultrasonic meters, no moving parts, which means they maintain their accuracy much better. They're more accurate because they measure much lower than mechanical meters do, and also improve leak detection capabilities. And that concludes the
Irrigation water.
meter replacement portion of it. But also as a public service, Lee County last year passed their one.
This is Lee County, so it wasn't us.
We have to follow it.
Lee County passed a 1 day a week watering restriction that goes into effect on February 1st. That's still being enforced this year also. Yeah, Bill prints some copies off.
It's on the back of everybody's bill. In fact, the part you tear off your bill to send in is the part that tells you what the rules are for your communities here in Gateway.
You have it? Anything else?
We're at risk of California relative to not having fire or water.
We're not a blue state.
We're in law or restrictions, so there must be some issue.
That question, I mean, to be able, it's a county question, so while we're all joking around, it's a county question, so if they do put in a restriction for us, that we will abide by. However, the hydrants, they don't have, the water are not coming from the same. Water meter are from what we have. It's a completely different system, but that's a anything else, I think fire chief maybe will assist you after the meetings. Yes, they did.
You can pull out the bounds.
So that's all right.
If I might, to the reserve already.
Go ahead, so Gino be able to answer you, some of the questions, I guess.
Yeah, Lee County, the unincorporated Lee County, which is most of Gateway, is in no danger of running out of what they call NEC, maximum daily consumption values. There is plenty of reserve in the Lee County system. For the city of Fort Myers, that's altogether another story, and I know it's in Gateway, does operate on the city system. For the unincorporated parts of Lee County, there is no concern with any water issues similar to what we're seeing through.
So Public Reserve will have to reach out as to the city of Fort Myers.
That's the same about that.
Okay.
Questions for?
I have a question. So, you know, review that you work, was it the initial pilot?
You got a question out there, can't hear it.
Elway Court was in the initial pilot and our water meters were replaced. If you're looking for feedback, nobody's contacted me. But I will comment, they did a fabulous job. The guys that did the work were out there in all kinds of weather. They did very good work from what we can tell. Nobody has had any complaints that I'm aware of.
They came through and replaced the sod where they had to tear up and did a very nice job with that. And basically it was just, unless they ran into a problem with a lot of roots and things like that, the work was done in a half a day or less. And ours, we had to move our mailbox before they came. We took an oak tree. I mean, everything that could possibly go into a yard was right around those.
That's supposed to tempt you.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, your box is the only thing that has been replaced. We have not put in any new meters
Yeah.
anywhere.
I know.
So we're gonna want your feedback once these new meters go.
No, I understand that, but I'm just telling you that it's so far, the work, I don't know who did it, but they
And it's funny because Bobby and I were thinking the same thing. She actually sent, I think Chelsea a text. Right now I'm saying, we would love to be able to, either in the future or immediately be able to capture their testimonial. So we put out, and I do appreciate you taking time to say, to talk about your experience, especially that because it was positive. So most people won't have a problem sticking up with negative experience, but
We're
thank
at the
you.
meeting, so we're kind of wrapping up.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
What are the questions for?
No, I'll start at 4.
Again?
I put that in my text. No, I put that in my text message. Meeting is it's from 4 to 6. Nope. It was from 4 to 6. It's been that our meetings are always from 4 to 6. I put that in my text this morning too, that it was at 4. I wonder why you weren't here.
Well.
Yeah, I wouldn't come. We're almost done. Everybody but you. Everybody.
So the next meters that will be done, you don't have to wait on that bid
Mm,
for the boxes,
Okay.
correct? Or
Mhm.
you can go on.
Sorry, you're talking about the pilot phase
Yeah.
installations? Yeah, those will all be done before, just for the boxes that were completed as part of the pilot study, those will all be done after we select the 3 vendors in the pilot.
Right now, some
conference, right?
Yeah.
So in Stony Brook, out of the ones that are already done, is there a map, just like you've got like, pond this, pond that, you have the same thing on the meters? We do, how many more, like, is Stony Brook at the top of the list? Get them done.
Honestly, so the pilot phase, once, like Austin said, once we've selected the 3 vendors, those 26, 27 properties are gonna have an interruption of service again, because they're gonna have to come swap the meters out. Now, the plan is to replace every single meter box in Gateway. Until we pick the one out of those 3 and get a schedule and a plan on how their plan of attack, we have absolutely no idea. But the plan, every meter box is going to be replaced.
And those 26 people will be directly contacted that interruption is coming.
Yes, that responsibility is on the contractor to provide notice. We will be sending email communication out to the HOA to convey to those property owners, but yes.
Keep in mind, this is in excess of 7,000 meters.
Yes.
A lot of numbers.
This might be something. I know that we're paying into the 001 for the street sweeping, and then you've got the meters. Is this something that we're just all paying overall in the 001? Or are we gonna actually get some type of a rental fee that'll be included in our water bill moving forward? Are we actually paying for that for a fee?
No, so what we had to do is we had a rate consultant come in and we told them, hey, we have all of these projects, which included this, $11, $12 million meter project. We said, hey, we need to make sure that we can pay for this because we're taking out that SRF loan, which is a 20-year loan at a low interest rate. So our rates, you all, if you have a Gateway bill, you just felt it's a rate increase. We have to make sure through our rates that we can pay back that 20-year loan. So that's how you're paying for it, not in the general fund, not in the 01, not in Sunbrook, in your water bill.
We keep any expenses that are related to running the water portion of our business are all paid through your water bill.
And this is part of utility best practices that we've been trying to adopt over the last couple of years, where we have these different assessment as it pertains to utilities, because that's the best practice. That's how large utilities handle funding for improvement, capital and maintenance for future projects.
Any other questions for water meter this project or your water infrastructure? All your landscaper, get back in 1 week, 1 day, one day. If you have any questions about the water restriction ordinance, you can contact our office. The county is the one who enforces it. They're the ones who, if they catch you irrigating more than one day a week, they're the ones who write your citation.
I just want you know, you do have exemptions. So if you have new sod, you have 30 days. So there are exemptions within the restrictions.
All right, no other questions for water meter? If I could just do one more thing before we go to open discussion. We talked a lot about communication. Randy, if you could just stand up and introduce yourself and then just give, you know, kind of the different avenues of communicating with the.
Let it go over here and no, you love it. Yeah. So they don't have to turn around.
Oh, it's good. I didn't hear. All right, everyone, my name is Randy and I'm the public information officer. So I'd love the feedback that you guys gave to me today. I'll take that back and discuss that with Chelsea and see how we can implement some of those, the feedback that you guys gave. I just wanted to remind everyone that whether or not you're a utility customer, you can sign up to our code red alerts. So if everyone could take out their phone and text 99411, and then the text is GSCDD, you sign up for all those alerts that you get from us. As we stated at the top, you could direct yourself to the website and go on the I Want To tab and then subscribe to district notifications. Something that's easier for me, it's just gatewaydistrict.org/subscribe. It takes you to the same place. You could sign up for district notifications, whether it's in your community you want to sign up or you want to know what's going on in the next community, next like Joanne. You could sign up for that, the newsletter as well. You also get a newsletter link in your utility bill online. I've seen that grow through the time that I've been here. So a lot of you know about the water restriction. That's the page that got a lot of hits. So thank you for that. And I encourage everyone to please disseminate that information to your residents in your community. And if you have any other questions or if you'd like me to present on any of these topics that were discussed, either me or someone in our staff, we can accommodate that at any HOA meeting as well.
So your text thing is on this page, this.
Correct.
Just the number. On that note.
Isn't it down here? It's down here. Down here, yes.
And just one last thing, you could also sign up for the agenda delivery. So all these presentations that you saw here today were available a week ago. And you could get that delivered straight to your email.
Right.
And that's right there at our homepage.
Right here.
Also subscribe to our YouTube channel.
And I'll say, you know, as the people in this room are leaders and representatives of their community, Randy does an excellent job of communicating through our social media platforms. I'm sure you've probably seen his Facebook post. I know if I see something on our community page, I will shoot something over to Chelsea. Hey, can you have Randy address, you know, this particular issue? And he's very quick to respond. So if you're seeing things in your community, whether it's, you know, safety or just, you know, just general, you know, topics or ideas, anything that you feel like we need to communicate out on a broader spectrum, Randy is super responsive to those requests. And I'm sure he would love input on topics and you know, ideas to put out there. We probably have a ton, but so he's very responsive. So you can be a good steward. And
the other day about kids throwing stones off the pond bank into the ponds. We can easily put together, Randy can whip up something, he's the most creative person I've ever met. Put something up and we can send that out and you guys can simply share. You know, if you're feeling something in your community, like you keep seeing the same issue, we talked about e-bikes today, you know, is there something that we can reach out to the county and look at their ordinances and just educate? That's all we're trying to do here. So one of the key things in implementing this, you know, trying to push your residents to sign up. We talked about this earlier in the meeting. A lot of our communication has stopped at the folks in this room. Not saying you particularly, but your HOA, your CAM, and they're managing so many different communities. It falls in between the cracks. So if we can get your residents to sign up and get the information directly from us, empower them, please.
There's also the issue of turnover. Sometimes board members leave, can leave. So that just gives us the ability to keep that communication going. And then for more extensive, detailed information on projects, if you go to our homepage there, the district projects page, that gives you more information about the lake bank restoration and the lake maintenance and the 20-foot clearance and all that stuff, as well as other projects.
Any questions about communication?
Hey,
We're gonna work on it.
one quick question. How many communities have a dedicated channel in their community?
We're moving that way.
Stony Brook the only one?
What do you mean with
A dedicated community channel through Comcast.
Hampton Park does, I believe.
I know Hampton Park does because we did their meeting.
Pelican does, Hampton does, Stony Brook does. Hampton?
Yeah.
Yeah, Hampton does.
Yeah, and it's all through Comcast? Okay, all right. Yeah, just here.
So, for questions, so if anybody has any questions, and within the agenda or outside of the agenda,
All right, for our next President's Council meeting, I encourage you to reach out, and if you have something that you'd like us to talk about, these topics, we chose these because these are most prominent right now, but if you have something that you'd like us to focus on, let us know, or tell us now, send us an email, send Grant Customer Care at gatewaydistrict.org, email us.
and then I think I want to emphasize that, we're really trying to improve the communication and it fall back on 50% us, 50% you guys. I'm very disappointed that we had to cancel those meetings. And I do understand that staff has reached out to the management company and to the presidents, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a president. So if your board is busy and they want to send somebody that's in a committee, you just say, so Mary Jo is going to go on behalf of us now. Or if you have a communications committee that you no longer want a board or a CAM, because a CAM can come and represent your community, you want to send a communications committee person to here, that is okay to do so. But what's important is that person takes that, knowledge and education that we just gave and hopefully be able to disseminate with you guys. I think that works a full circle. So it's really nice. I want to thank you everyone for coming. It's nice to see a room filled with all of us. Yes, JJ.
Can you even get these recorded next time too?
It is recorded. It'll be up on the YouTube. It'll have the screen share with the audio. That'll be on as soon as I get done here. It'll be on the YouTube page within a half an hour. Yeah. It's actually live streaming to YouTube right now.
Last couple of weekends, there's been motorcycles, dirt bikes going back and forth on the FP&L line, just screaming half the day. Is there any way to stop that?
We'll notify LCSO, and if you hear it, contact LCSO, but we have roving patrols every week, like 2 days a week, and we get reports, so I can notify them and let them know, hey, add this to your inspections.
Yeah, and I just talked to Chelsea earlier, because there's a lot of conversation about e-bikes and bikes and roads and sidewalks and all that stuff. And I did ask her to put together like a memo, and I'm sure Randy will post it on, as of right now, what are the rules and regulations for our sidewalks, for, the different types of bikes, mopeds, golf carts, whatever that is, so we can post it. And I know that in Stony Brook, we've had issues around, especially e-bikes with kids. And to me, everyone needs to understand what the rules are, but also as a parent of 4 boys, I need to know what the rules are so I can make sure I instruct my kids how to behave, where they can ride, where they can't ride, make sure they have a helmet, all those things. So, we want to make sure that we're communicating the regulations, but also we want to empower those with riders, whether it's yourself or your children, to make sure we're educating them on what to do in the communities.
And no speed down Gateway Boulevard, okay?
And still wheelies and Gateway Boulevard. Thanks.